I became chairman in October 2009, and the trust at that time, I think it's fair to say, didn't have a really good name. We weren't really well known amongst the fan base. We only had 200 odd members, and it was very clear that if we were going to win any kind of a voice with the club, we had to increase our membership, increase our credibility, and get ourselves known, put ourselves out there, and that's something that myself and the board set about doing. In early 2010, we'd managed to do that through the local media enough, and the national media, for me to get the first phone call from Mr. Bates, well, the only phone call I ever got from Mr. Bates. That came one Tuesday evening in March, when, following a statement from the Leeds United Supporters Trust, which on behalf of our members welcomed openness and transparency in football on the back of the Parliamentary DCMS Committee original findings, I got a phone call from Mr. Bates to ask me why I was the enemy of Leeds United. Here I am, stuck hundreds of miles away from home, still being the enemy of Leeds United, supporting the club tonight. I wonder where he is. He ain't got £500,000 free aircraft tonight to bring him here, so he should have come on the bloody ferry like me, unlucky. Anyway, Mr. Bates, I tried to speak to Mr. Bates, but I think a bottle or two of red had probably been sunk at that point, as they are an hour in front of us, and this was 7:30. So it was difficult to speak to the man. He set the tone for the relationship. He spent 20 minutes, we call it chowing where I come from, and that's having a right go at me, about Leeds United supporters that use the internet, Leeds United supporters that spoke to the local news media, Leeds United supporters that wrote things on forums, and everyone that didn't like him, he had a right go about, and he didn't pick and choose his words. He let them have it with both barrels. I then had a further 40 minutes on the phone with his wife Susanna, who was far nicer, and not quite as drunk, but still supported her husband to the very end. That set the tone for what's happened to myself, the trust, and the club since then. It's almost come full circle with the news last week that Mr. Bates has been removed as president, which I think is, absolutely, is the wisest move the club could have made. Whatever we had an association with that man, there were always going to be people that wouldn't come to games. There were always going to be people that won't invest with the club, and hopefully the trust will be releasing an audio book where we're going to tell the story of 2012 in some detail. So it'll be free. We're not going to charge anybody anything for it. So look out for that, available on the internet. We're going to be recording it soon with any luck. But you'll be very interested to find out exactly what did go on during 2012. And despite the fact that Mr. Bates blamed Leeds fans for frightening investors away, the truth is somewhat different, and we're going to be able to tell you that in a little bit more detail. Now then, how did we engage with the club? Well, believe it or not, we have been able to engage with the club during the time that Mr. Bates was the owner of the club. But we had to play our cards a little bit clever, because he wouldn't speak to us directly. He wouldn't allow any of the officers of the club to speak to us directly. So we had to go in through the back door, if you like. And the way we did that was to establish really good working relationships with the local media, first of all. Adam Pope at Radio Leeds, Phil Hay from the Yorkshire Evening Post, amongst many others. We spoke to at length. We played ball with them. We gave them opinions, our members' opinions, and we gave them information from time to time, which helped them, certainly during last summer, push to try and get Leeds United supporters answers as to what was going on. That meant that the local media were listening to us, and we could speak regularly in the local media. So even if the club refused to listen, they couldn't ignore the pages of the YEP, and they couldn't ignore the broadcasts that were going out on Radio Leeds. We established excellent relationships with people in the national media too, with the likes of Nick Harris and Dave Conn and many others. David Conn, you'll remember, I think, from the programme Who Owns Leeds United, which went out, was that late 2009? I think it was 2010?
September 2011.
Ah, right, 11. Good God, was it got late? You see how the years have flown. So we established a really good relationship with them. So even if the club weren't listening, you still saw lust in the local media. You still saw lust in the national media. We got on people's nerves, to be quite honest. We were in the news that often, and the whole idea was that it wasn't going to be me that was the public face. We previously under Rick Dunyek, Rick had sort of been, and I feel sorry for him. He didn't have the numbers. He'd sort of had the role dumped on him, to be the spokesperson for the trust. And we decided early doors that we were going to have a dedicated media person. But it didn't work out like that, and I covered a couple of times. I ended up doing what I didn't want to do, but I'm looking at myself. I'm not actually a bad-looking fella, but I didn't really want. I didn't really want to be the public face of the trust. I wanted to be the engine behind it that was driving it. But anyway, that's the way it's ended up, and that's the way it is. Well, that made me a target again, and personally and as a trust, we suffered at the hands of Mr. Bates. We suffered because we were getting our message out there. People were hearing what we had to say. When we put out financial analysis at the club during 2012, it was received in the media with national acclaim. People were giving us credit for the work that we were doing. People in influential positions were giving us credit for the work we were doing. We established very close links with our local MPs. All the 5 Leeds MPs are all members of the trust. And we've been invited to speak at party policy events in Westminster. So we became, if you like, a real thorn in Mr. Bates' side. And as much as he tried to convince Leeds fans that we were rude irritants, that we were abusive people, that we were the vociferous minority, our membership grew and grew and grew. And at last count, our membership was 9,088. Which I think maintains our position as the 5th largest trust in the UK. So we've gone from 204 members to 9,088 members in 3 and a bit years. We've gone from a trust that people didn't know about to one that most Leeds fans now, we're a bit like Bob really, either lovers or haters. Hopefully as the weeks and months progress now, we can start being what a trust is supposed to be. Because in the aftermath of Mr. Bates being removed from his post last Friday evening, within 15 minutes of that appearing on the website, the Leeds website, I got the first phone call from David Haig. So we are meeting with Mr. Haig and Paul Hunt, the new CEO, on Wednesday afternoon. So hopefully, from having to force our way and force the club to listen, in what's been. We've not been at war with the club, that's the last thing we've been, because all the time that we've been fighting with Mr. Bates to try and get your voices heard, we've been doing our very best to help our members, help the club, help the community, working with Leeds City Council, and amongst many other things, trying to push the brighter future of the club and the brighter side of the club forward. So it's not been Lust versus Leeds United, it was Ken Bates versus Lust. Lust is Leeds United. We're all Leeds fans. We're all here to support the club. So we're part and parcel. We've now got a voice. We've now got the meeting we've been waiting for a long time, and we now don't have the gate, the barrier that's been in our way for so very long. So it's a new dawn for us, a new era for us, and we're really looking forward to it. We sort of woke up Saturday morning and thought, what the bloody hell are we going to do now? But we've been planning for this for a long while, so we know what we're going to do now. As of Wednesday onwards, hopefully, we can do what a trust is supposed to do. We don't have to be at war with our owners anymore. We can start with them, to push for a better Leeds United for the future. And that's what we all want. Doesn't matter whether GFHC have got £10.50 or £10,000,000.50. Doesn't matter. We make an emotional investment in our clubs, as do supporters of every club, right the way across the world. It's time we put our money where our mouth is now as well. Those that have stayed away because of Bates, it's time we encourage those fans back. It's time we engage with the club again, finally, as a supporters trust, doing what a trust should do. And we're looking forward to doing that. Hopefully we can push a 30,000 gate next weekend and let Brian McDermott and the team know that we are behind him and that we are Barmy Leeds fans, and we're going to make a real load of noise, just like we'll do tonight, even though there's only a few of us here. Yeah. That's a quick summation of where we've been. I'm happy to take questions or whatever you want to do from there on in.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask a few questions.
Go on,
Barry, and then we'll open up to the floor. Just I think maybe some from sort of the trust and Shels and what we can maybe learn from you. So you've obviously done a lot of this great work. You know, you've gone from 200 to a few thousand members. I think it's a great achievement in and of itself. What sort of groups are you engaging with now in England? You know, or Scotland or Wales or anywhere else? Who's coming to you for advice, and what are they looking for?
That is a good question, Lee. we engage locally and nationally. We attend and we're at the forefront of everything that goes on in terms of the Football Sports Federation, Sports Direct. We are trying to spearhead new projects. One that we've just set up and running that we're going to be working with the FSF particularly with is to have an appointed board member that looks after policing, stewarding, safety, etc. It's a model that's sort of new to what we're doing.
A board member of the trust.
A board member of the trust, sorry, yeah.
Just clarify that.
It's a model that's new to what we're doing, but we have found over the last 3 years that we sort. I don't want to sound as I'm bragging. We sort of lead the way in a lot of respects. We pick up on new ideas. We work very readily with other organisations, other fans groups. We work superbly with our colleagues at other trusts, yourselves included. We've helped out Coventry, Cardiff, many other trusts, Huddersfield, of course. Over the last season or two, and it's important that as supporters groups we remember our tribalist aspect, we remember which club we support, we can never get away from that, but that we share something, and it's something that's going to grow and grow and grow in strength as this it's almost like a snowball that's rolling downhill. The game has been taken away from the average supporter. Money and money that buys power has bought the average supporter out of the game. And it's time we as supporters took our game back. It's our game of football. It was supporters that set up the Football Association 150 years ago, and they're celebrating that this summer. But it's time supporters were back at the heart of the game. We are the largest single stakeholder group that are involved in football. We make the biggest investment because we invest our heart in our clubs. We buy our tickets, we buy our season tickets, we pay game to game, we buy the merchandise, but there isn't a bigger investment than that you make with your art. And that's what needs recognising, and it's time to push us as groups and as organised groups, the supporters agenda back at the top of the list. Football League, Premier League, Football Association, you need to be listening because we're coming to get our game back.
And sort of following on from that, one of the big challenges we found, and I know a lot of trusts find, is a lot of suspicion and a lot of division sometimes on the fan base. And even someone like Ken Bates, who maybe is doing things that can be demonstrably damaging to the football club because he's the incumbent, because he's the one who's the owner, the owner in quotation marks at various points in Leeds United. He's still able to sort of point to the badge and go, the football club it comes before everything else, and he's able to use that defence. And unfortunately, as supporters, we should have the defence, because at the end of the day, we're the ones that are truly the football club when you strip it down. But it seems like even fans themselves get caught up in the idea that whoever's in there at the moment and spending the money or spending other people's money, as the case may be, they're the ones that should have the say about what's good for the football club. How do you sort of square that circle between saying, okay, well, that's legitimate, but we have concerns that need to be met as well?
It's difficult because, again, you're talking about some of the greatest stories ever told are matters of the heart, and you are talking about that emotional investment that you make in your club. So it's difficult, and we've, over the last 3 or 4 years, had an element of our fan base that have been really anti what Lust has done, because we've stood up and said to Mr. Bates, no, you're not right, we don't agree with that. And we want to see some change. We want to see some ambition on the pitch. We don't want our best players sold. We don't want corporate shiny wallpaper in the East Stand. We want that money spent on what's going on the pitch. We've had a decent sized section of the fan base criticise us for that. And hey, they're entitled to their opinion. All you can do is answer that criticism honestly and openly. I think the minute you start shying away from answering difficult questions is the minute the shadow becomes cast over you. And the one thing that we as a trust have never done is shy away from the more difficult questions. We've taken them on the chin and tried to answer them as best we can do. Learn from your mistakes. I made a summary of them last year when I said the takeover was going to be imminent. At that point we thought it was. So take the criticism, learn from your mistakes. But But it is difficult to bring a fan base together under a single banner. Difficult to the point where I don't even think it's really worth trying to do that. I think what's more important that is that you celebrate the fact that a club, all clubs, are going to have different sections of supporters. You know, we've got 9,000 trust members. The Leeds United Supporters Club has however many thousand members they've got. The RMCs have about 5,000 members in total. And there will be, there's 12,000 season ticket holders. So you can have all these different individual groups. We all share a common love, and that's Leeds United in our case. In your case, it's the Shels. Celebrate the differences, recognise the differences, but where you need to be together, come together. Put those differences aside. I'll tell you what, we have trouble doing that because we're Yorkshiremen, and we love nought better than arguing among ourselves half the time.
So should we do a comedy sketch about that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So but it is difficult. Take the criticism, be open, be honest, and recognise that we're never all going to see it the same way all the time.
It depends who owns the football club. Like what Leeds United had was a reprobate who fleeced and who was. The world knew that Bates was a crook. He had a bank here in the 70s that went bust. He's been ripping people off all his life, but he's doing it through the Cayman Islands, and this was the biggest. There was the cancer, and we don't know if it's gone yet because we don't know who owns Ellen Road or Thorpe Arch. And if he still owns them, he still has a grip on the football club.
We're reliably told that he doesn't.
Yeah.
There are officers at Leeds City Council that are aware who the current owners are. They're confident that it isn't Mr. Bates.
Yeah.
I couldn't say that 100%.
No, I understand that.
And of course we've got this allegation from Mr. Bates on Sunday about the Lutonville loan to GFHC.
Yeah.
Here we are in the same situation. Mr. Bates doesn't know Lutonville are.
Yeah.
Yet they bought 3.2 million of preferential shares leading up to the sale and made a quick £800,000 on those.
Yeah.
And now they've lent GFHC apparently £1 million or whatever it was to keep us going. But he doesn't know they are, but he arranged a loan for him. Yeah. So the words you've chosen, I've got to be careful and won't use them. But hey, your questions, you're right, should be asked, yes.
No other football club has had an owner like this other than Chelsea. If Mr. Harding hadn't been killed in the helicopter crash, his days at Chelsea were very numbered.
Yeah.
He's had a lot of luck in how he's. But the biggest problem at Leeds is the propaganda that he spread to try and negate what LUST was doing. And before that, he did away with all the supporters clubs. Now the supporters clubs are back on board, LUST are back on board. So hopefully there's going to be a coming together of everybody and bring regional back. But that's the difficult part, and I don't think Shelbourne have Mr. Bates at the helm that you have to deal with,
I have a question actually. No, not at all. No, I suppose after this one we might just sort of open up and encourage more contributions. You had quite sensitive information about the takeover, or at least had access to it. Without revealing any sources or how you came about that, how do you sort of insert yourself into a process which is highly secretive and has a lot at stake? How are you able to do that with credibility?
We stood up to a challenge. Mr. Bates in January in his programme notes whilst having a go at us said, "Put your money where your mouth is," knowing full well that as a trust we've got very little money. So we decided that we would put together a small presentation, working with the board members and some of the excellent volunteers that we've got that work with the different teams we put together. And we put together a presentation which we took to a couple of local businessmen, but also one of our American colleagues took to a group in America. On the back of that, we seemed to attract interest from people who were, potential investors in the club. Originally, it was on quite a small scale, but then we got a call from, and I've still got to be careful, a contact who represented a group from the Middle East, and he explained that a consortium was in place and was looking to make a bid for the club, and that they would. It would be helpful if they could, rely on the support of the supporters if that went ahead. That sort of came out the blue to us, and it pushed us onto a whole new level. We had spoken to local businessmen, to people who've been involved in bids in Leeds in the past, and that communication's continued to this day, to be honest with you. So we were sort of shoved to the front of a media game that we didn't have any idea how to play. We're not media people. We're not a news agency. We're a supporters trust. So it was very difficult at first. We had to give certain assurances that we would protect confidentialities of those people involved, and we've protected those to this day. There is a clear reason for doing that, and that is the future isn't written yet, and there are one or two individuals whose identity, if it were to become known during the course of the last 12 to 18 months, would probably have not got a foot through the door, due to the fact that we were dealing with a previous owner whose reputation preceded him. As we look to tell the story of 2012 in the next few weeks or so, we're hoping to be able to give a little bit more information about who those people were. There will be some identities that we still have to respect the confidence of. As we did that, the knock-on effect for doing that was, because we kept those confidences, other people began contacting us, and all of a sudden we had 3 or 4 or 5 really excellent sources that were coming to us from within the game, the financial aspect of the game, the media aspect of the game, and then we had players come to us as well, which was again totally out of the blue. Because we were able to keep those confidences, people kept coming, and still come to this day. So we took a decision there to protect our integrity, to respect their right to anonymity, for the benefit of our members and for the benefit of the future of the club. There will be a time to tell all, and we'll tell as much as we can soon. I am hoping that as discussions with GFHC go forward from Wednesday, it might be that we are in a position to help them with potential investors as well. So some really positive good might come up from the fact that we've put ourselves in a difficult position and kept our mouths shut about that for a long time now.
Good stuff. I'm sort of going to shut up now and sort of ask, or allow anyone who wants to sort of ask a question or Gary or make a contribution. This gentleman here has his hand up with the electronic cigarette. Go ahead.
Gary, you said you're going to be talking with GFH on Wednesday or so. What mood are you going to enter those talks in?
Well, I'm very pleased to be in them. So I think it's important that we establish or get off on the right foot. I know a lot of people seem to think we've been anti-GFHC. That actually is never the case. We welcomed GFHC in November and December, and the words we used were we were optimistically cautious going forward. I don't think it's any secret, and GFHC will tell you it's no secret, that their parent company's books don't make great reading, and I think it's clear that they're not the Dare to Dream owners that potentially we could have had last summer. However, you have to give them credit for some of the things they're doing. The restructure and season ticket prices, the fact that they've got the foundation up and running again and working with kids in schools. Many things they've done are the right things. They're doing the right things.
And they got rid of Bates.
And they got rid of Bates, which of course is the biggest thing of all. Mr. Bates' biggest fan at the back of the hall. Well, look, so we've got to recognise they're doing the right things. I think what they have to recognise about us is that we will always be a supporters trust, and as a supporters trust, it's our job to keep an eye on what our owners are doing. To be involved in constructive criticism where it's needed, but also to help. And this is why supporters trust exists, to represent its members, the wider fan base, the community and the club, and every trust that you talk to does the same thing. So it's important that GFHC understand what we're about and what we want to do,
It's important that we hope we can forge a common vision. The Lust vision that was written by its members and the wider fan base hasn't changed. I think we all still share that. But GFHC are saying the right things and doing the right things, and we want to support them in that. And more importantly, I think it's important that we make it very clear that we support Brian McDermott and the team on the pitch. And from next Saturday onwards, let's push for 30,000 crowds every week. And as a trust, we're going to be doing that. We're going to be doing our best to get as many people in that ground as possible. Because whilst we do make that massive emotional investment, if we're going to make a financial investment in that club, then hopefully GFHC will do the same proportionately. And let's have a couple of winners, please.
Gentleman, here's a question.
Yeah, just Gary, you were mentioning earlier on about engaging with the authorities and that. Do you find that difficult when you have the likes of the Football League who seem to think that given a man who's brought 3 of the 4 clubs he was involved in into administration is a credible appointment as their new CEO?
And also allows a club to move 30 miles down the road as they've done this with Coventry.
Yeah. The footballing authorities are probably the most difficult body that we engage with. They seem to be a law unto themselves, and when I talk about fans taking the game back, that's exactly where I'm talking about, striking at the heart of. The FA have got to listen. We attended a fans summit a few weekends ago, a month or 2 ago is it now? Yeah, time's flown. St George's Park, wonderful facility, really nice to be there. Excellent fans summit, supported really well by trust and supporters groups, and a lot of the workshops that were put on were absolutely superb. So if supporters and supporters organisations are making the right noises and talking about where the game should be going and how supporters should be included, then it's time the governing bodies took note as well. And of course the DCMS committee findings, rulings is going to be a testament to that. I attended a Labour Party policy event in Westminster as well, which was a few weeks ago,
2 months ago.
2 months ago, and it was clear at that event that at least one of the parties is very keen in its next manifesto to support or to promote supporter inclusion in the game, and to recognise that the supporters' role has to be taken more seriously by the governing bodies. I'm sure that it's going to be a cross-party thing. Well, the Labour Party policy event was very clear in that. So there is a huge weight to make the governing bodies listen, but it is fair to say they are the most difficult bodies to deal with, yes.
I'm assuming that Sean Harvey will have to give up his directorship at Leeds if he's taking the CEO role of the Football League now, yeah?
We are told that negotiations are ongoing in order to remove Sean from all involvement.
Is there any questions down at the back? Any questions down there? Okay, Donny?
Yeah. I was curious, just you were speaking earlier on about what the trust was able to do in the community. Sort of broadly, you mentioned that at the time when Bates still had the grip of the club and you didn't obviously see eye to eye, so
Yeah.
you admitted yourself that as a trust we don't have the same pool of money as a club has access to through its component parts. So what were you as a trust able to do or take part in the community without the club's backing and without the finances?
Well, we have a couple of projects on the go at the moment. One of them has been on the go now for some time, and we don't own Ellen Road. It's a ground that's owned and rented by the club. As a trust, we've been working now for almost 12 months to get our constitution changed so that we can raise asset locked funds with a view to working with Leeds City Council. Again, I've got a meeting with them in September to purchase the ground. So there's an awful lot you can do in the community without the club working with you. Of course, also we're looking to get the ground declared a community asset, which a couple of trusts have done already, and it's something that we're on the way towards doing now.
It's unfortunate legislation which doesn't exist in Ireland, but I think it's something that maybe, hopefully, football fans here might lobby for.
Oh yeah, you should be doing.
Yeah. So essentially, what it allows is certain assets to be deemed with community value, and it means that they can't be sold without notifying the community first. And I think Oxford United actually were the first trust to get that declared.
That's
but
right.
Unfortunately, the law just doesn't exist here. Not yet, anyway.
So there are plenty of things you can be doing within the community to try and promote the club, and also to the benefit of the members and the wider Leeds fan base as well. I think if Leeds United the local council and the trust can work towards buying that ground back, that's a massive step in the right direction for the future of the club. Huge. And you know, if supporters have a stake in the ownership of that ground, well, it doesn't matter whether Mr. Bates reincarnates himself and comes back, because it's us who'll be paying rent, so we'll dictate the terms.
That's it.
Any more questions? Particularly looking down towards the back.
How much would it cost to buy Ellen Road back?
Sorry, say again.
How much would it cost to buy Ellen Road back?
So how much would it cost to buy Ellen Road back was the question.
There is a contract in place at the moment that has a fixed figure. I believe it's 15 million.
15 million.
Yeah.
A bargain.
Looks changed for that. Who owns it?
We don't know who owns it, Kev. The officers at Leeds City Council do, and they've assured us that as far as they're aware, it's not Mr. Bates.
So, the question I have for you is, do you ever see a feature where the fans of Leeds own the club or own a stake in it, as they do at Swansea and any other clubs?
Okay, yeah, I do. Yeah, probably not that we own the club. Okay, I've got to be careful what I say, because it's we're in this particular project is in its infancy at the moment, but we are looking at putting a package together which would offer supporters a chance to buy a stake in the club. Yeah, we have worked with local businessmen over the last 18 months or so who would perhaps be interested in assisting us. And that's something else I'll be speaking to Leeds City Council about in early September when I meet them. So wouldn't it be fantastic if we had a 10% share in Leeds United now? It'd be great. That's something we're working towards, yeah. Do I ever see supporters owning the club? I don't, because I hope that in the next year, 18 months, 2 years, 2 seasons, we're going to be back in the promised land, and you know, somebody's going to really want to come and take hold of us and push us on and lets us dominate the Premier League for the next 30 years.
So I suppose we're getting close enough to actual the time where we're going to have to just wrap things up. One area I wanted to touch on was the game over here. And what often happens, I think, sometimes is we see the game in quite binary terms, and as League of Ireland fans, we maybe don't feel like we get on with some of our counterparts who support the English teams a bit more vociferously than they would over here. For you, you know, what would be sort of your message to maybe people who are fans of the game over here? You know, what sort of things should they bear in mind in order to just try and keep Irish football afloat?
The thing is, it doesn't matter what the size of the club is. It doesn't matter, you know, whether you've got 30,000 coming through the gates every week or 3,000 coming through the gates. When you make that investment, or 300, when you make that emotional investment in your club, for any normal person, that's for life. How can any of you imagine supporting another club now? Of course you can't. No, neither can I. It just would never happen. So it's about doing all you can do, as far as I'm concerned. You know, to keep it, keep your club at the top of your agenda. Promote your club to your kids. Promote your club in the local community. Don't. I mean, we're chasing dreams as Leeds United. We always do. We always have done. And our dreams might seem huge to 1895 fans, but to us, they're our dreams. Look, enjoy your dreams. Whatever your dreams might be, enjoy them. You know, and chase them. Never give up believing. You know, as a Leeds fan, I've always said, and I don't care if we're 3-0 down at half time. You've won this half 3-0. We're going to win it 4-0 next one. Just don't ever stop believing. Just believe. You know, you're going to get. There's more knockbacks in football than there is push-ups. That's a fact. There can only be so many cup winners every season. There can only be so many promoted every season. But enjoy every result. Enjoy every one. You know, especially if you've got a father on Leeds at 4-1 and it's 33-1. All right. So go for a 4-1 result at Leeds every week. Just enjoy your game. Promote your clubs in the local community, and don't forget who owns the game. Supporters.
Well, I'm actually going to say a few words before we wrap up. To just give you some bit of context, the 1895 Trust is the supporters trust for Shelburne FC fans. We're incorporated as a friendly society with the Register of Friendly Societies. So just like any other trade union, credit union, or cooperative, we have the same legal setup and requirements. So what that means is we have to make annual returns, we have to hold AGMs, and we have to basically allow fans democracy and our constitution to guide what we do. I think in Ireland, very often there maybe isn't as much of a formal approach to fans groups as we have, and we're quite proud and we're quite keen that we sort of keep spearheading this. For instance, today Waterford United obviously was saved by their fans because they managed to raise €7,000 over a weekend. But I think something that would be very important there is the fact that they actually should push on and become a formal group that will actually allow to take a stake in the club. Because it's only through being organised and through having that legal structure in place you can then affect the game. Also, there's other moves afoot in Ireland. The Heart of the Game network is now up and running. It's a network between different Irish football clubs that's aiming to affect change in Irish football. Obviously, again, led by supporters and the values of the cooperative movement and the values of supporters trusts. So be sure to check them out online. And I suppose I'd just finally like to say thanks. Thanks Mark Breen for doing this sound here, very kindly offering up the services for free, and I'd like to thank Mark for that. Also like to thank the venue here at Smith Fairview, fine hospitality had. I'd also like to thank Gary and Paul for making their way over here. Gary, do you want to just say a word where you were on Friday, both mentally and physically? You were both managed to lose your passport.
Oh God, what a bloody weekend!
And also it was, you know.
Last Wednesday I went off work sick with stomach pains, and on Friday night I ended up in hospital with gastroenteritis. I was in a right bloody state. On Friday morning we're looking to confirm the fights, and I couldn't find my passport. Moved house last November, and I thought it's in one of the boxes in the attic somewhere. The wife was up and down that bloody ladder. She must have lost some weight, I'll tell you. And we couldn't find the passport also. I had to tell Pastor, look, Paul, I'll get on the ferry. He then rang me back just gone 8 o'clock to tell me that the news had gone on the site about Bates leaving the club, and I was sleeping off a particularly nasty bout of sickness when he rang. So the wife put me up with a phone for Paul, and I spoke to Paul, and I'm telling the wife about what was said. And you know, the guts start turning. I thought I was going to drop to the toilet. Sat on the toilet and the phone rings. It was David Egg. Would you believe it? Ended up in hospital by 10 o'clock that night. I know. So I didn't get that well.
The shocker, that's right.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, one or two there. So I've had a bit of a weekend, but I must say it was a lovely break in hospital, and they treated me very well. Kept me in isolation for 2 days, and I went in at 145 point something kilograms and come out 143. So you know that's not too bad. I promised the wife I won't have any more than 4 pints tonight because my stomach's still a bit tender. But yeah, interesting weekend. Lee, can I say as well on behalf of the Leeds United Supporters Trust, we're very, very grateful for the invite tonight. Very pleased to come over here, and I think you know supporters trusts in general should be doing this more. You know, we should be supporting each other at events like this. We should take time out to listen to each other's stories. Interesting story today about the lads from Waterford, and really well done to them. You know, this is what supporters trusts should be doing, and doing well, looking after our clubs, working with each other. I like nothing better than to be able to, you know, get involved in helping the guys at Coventry and other clubs that we've assisted over the last 12 to 18 months when times are hard. But it's nice to enjoy social events like this as well, and come and see you know, some new faces and some new people. I'd like to do this a lot more often. So you know, well done Lee for putting it together, and we really appreciate it. Thank you.
And now to the important stuff. It's 15 minutes to kick off. For those of you who don't know, Talca Park is just down the Richmond Road, which is just right out here. I think there'll be a group of us heading over. So if you just sort of want to follow anyone in the Shels or Leeds jersey, you should be able to find your way. Thanks very much for coming, everybody.
Cheers.